Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals. My name is Tiana Ren Hanson, and today we'll be talking about how to play Thirsty Sword Lesbians, an Evil Hat Productions tabletop role-playing gaming system. I'm running this game during the month of June over at twitch.tv/questsandchaos, and I figured giving everyone a quick tutorial on gameplay would be a great idea. This is primarily for players, but GMs will learn a lot too. So let's jump in. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a powered by the apocalypse game. That means that all character creation is done through selecting pre-printed playbooks and making choices within those playbooks. These playbooks are used for the core concept of the game, making a move. When making a move, the Game Master, or GM, calls for a stat roll based on the situation. The player rolls 2 six-sided dice and adds them up, adding or subtracting the associated stat value. There's 3 possible outcomes: the upbeat, when the score is 10 or higher, the mixed beat, when the score is 7 through 9, or the downbeat, when the score is 6 or under. There are 5 stats on every playbook: daring, grace, heart, wit, and spirit. Daring is for strength of arm or word, grace is for elegant maneuvers, heart is for anything to do with emotional intelligence, wit is for knowledge and cleverness, and spirit is for strength of will and metaphysical powers. There's 2 kinds of moves: basic moves and playbook moves. Basic moves are moves available to all players, which may be used as the situation requires. Playbook moves are specific to each playbook and highlight how each archetype uses their beautiful disaster queer energy to solve problems, or create them. As mentioned before, moves are the core of the gameplay. We're going to briefly go over the types of moves and how they manifest within the world. First up, danger moves. These are the moves used in direct physical confrontation when your goal is to disable someone else and make them unable to fight further. In Thirsty Sword Lesbians, this is rarely the first type of move called on. These are usually more of a last resort, when someone is too embedded in their toxicity and needs to be removed. The danger moves are Fight, for the direct physical confrontations; Defy Disaster, which is used to save yourself or someone else in a desperate burst of the extraordinary; and finally, Stagger, which is a greater emotional or physical blow than would cause a condition. We'll talk more about conditions later. While the danger moves are effective, the real heart of the game is in the next set of moves, the heartstring moves. These moves are Entice, when you're trying to appeal to someone's physical or emotional sensibilities; Figure out a person, for when you're trying to gain insight on a person to understand their context; Influence with a string, when you spend a string to get someone to do what you want them to do; Smitten, which is a declaration of love for another character; and finally, Kiss in a dangerous situation, because we do so love our kisses after some tasty tension. Pretty much everything in a scene can be handled with the heartstring moves as the characters learn about the people and the world around them and seek to make their marks. But sometimes, the world and the people make their marks on the characters, and they take conditions. There's no health points in this game. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is all about exploring emotions and connections, and sometimes that comes with strong reactions to what's going on. Mechanically, these are called conditions, and there are 5 of them: angry, frightened, guilty, hopeless, and insecure. Once all 5 of these have been taken, anything that would cause a 6th condition causes the character to be defeated and removed from the scene. This can take many forms depending on the conflict that caused the defeat. Conditions can be cleared with another category of basic moves: emotional support. This is a time to really lean into those relationships built between PCs and NPCs, allowing for amazing roleplay moments and chances for recovery after high emotion scenes. Remember that while these are badass queers, they're also people who are going through a lot of physical and emotional stress, and that weighs heavily on them. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a game that focuses on emotions, relationships, and the messy ways flawed, broken people interact with the world. As you might assume, this comes with the potential for unintentional, emotional consequences for the players as people. While the GM can use any safety tools they prefer, here's a quick overview of the tools that come with the game system. The palette is a chance for the players to show the GM what they're excited about and what their lines and veils are before going into gameplay. Lines are boundaries that should never be crossed, and veils are problematic things that can be handled but should be handled off-screen or delicately. The check-in card is what it sounds like, a way for everyone to check in on each other, and it can be as basic as a quick eye contact and raised eyebrow when things are getting heated or sensitive. And finally, the X card is one of the most important safety tools in TTRPGs today. It's an immediate halt to the scene to remove the problematic element in the scene and can be instigated by anyone at the table. We're here to explore emotions, and that comes with a lot of vulnerability. Players and GM alike need to feel safe at the table to really dive deep. One of the unique features of Powered by the Apocalypse games is the relationships that are established at the beginning of gameplay. This comes in a series of questions that connect PCs to other PCs, and in Thirsty Sword Lesbians, this gives them a mechanical element called strings. Strings are a mechanical representation of influence one person has over another. These can also be gathered through some basic or playbook moves on both PCs and NPCs and can be built up to trigger a string advance or used to change the outcome of a scene and influence the people they're interacting with. In this system, character advancement happens as the characters gain experience from downbeats or other times when things go wrong. The player can use that to develop their playbook and maybe even retire the character into a happily ever after. All right, now that we have a pretty good understanding of how the gameplay works, let's look at building characters. This is where you get to figure out who you are in this world and what internal conflict drives your participation in the story. There's 4 simple steps to making a character in Thirsty Sword Lesbians. First, choose your playbook. Each playbook is a broad archetype. The biggest thing to consider when choosing a playbook is the emotional conflict at the core of the archetype. Every player must choose a different playbook. There can't be 2 of the same playbooks in the game, as that would make the emotional beats muddled and possibly end in frustration for the players. Second, fill out your playbook. This is the time to choose your name and pronouns and choose the aesthetics of the character. This is also when you choose your stats and select your playbook moves. Third, introduce your character to the rest of the table. Give their name, pronouns, and take the time to describe them. This is also a good time to describe the conflict at the core of your character so the table can lift up and spotlight those tasty dramatic moments when they happen. And finally, establish relationships. Use the relationships worksheet and go around the table, asking the playbook-specific questions of each player. And that's it! You're now ready to dive into a game of Thirsty Sword Lesbians. If you want to know more about the Thirsty Sword Lesbian system, Roll20 also has a great overview, which we'll link in the description below. If you're ready to dive in and learn the game on a deeper level, you can watch me teach the system to my players on our Session 0 episode here on Quests and Chaos. Remember that the core of the game is relationships, both between the PCs and the people in the world around them, and emotional truth. Dive deep and relish the chance to experience the world through the eyes of a Thirsty Sword Lesbian. And remember, feel deeply and powerfully and often. Have fun!